The release date of the next Elder Scrolls, that's a secret. Whether or not Todd is going to take Fallout 76 behind the shed and put it out of its misery, that's a secret. But you know what isn't a secret? That Skyrim's combat mechanics are kind of, well, it's got a lot of, it's got a lot of left clicking, if you like clicking left. Let's just say they've got areas for improvement. Now please, hold on to your butts. My name is Koubitz, and I'm going to fix that for you. Well, actually, I'm not gonna fix that. Talented mod authors fixed that. But either way, you should really subscribe to my channel. And just know that this video is out of love for Skyrim because you know what? I just think it can do so much better. Intro over. Here are the mods I recommend. So there's this thing called dodging, and it's like pretty cool. And games that also have swords have it as like a feature. One of the most frustrating parts of vanilla combat comes down to your overall lack of mobility in this area. And that is why I recommend TK Dodge. This mod gives you the ability to dodge in any direction during combat at the cost of a small amount of stamina. This means if an enemy is attacking you, in the past all you could do is block or get hit, but now you can dodge. The response time in this mod is great. It's like it was meant to be there all along. Plus, in my experience, it's an ability that is useful for basically any build, so there's no reason why you shouldn't download it. I mean, just look at how fun dodging is in other games. Wow, I love this feature! Alright, next up. Do you ever find yourself in a battle while playing Skyrim and think, boy, this is going slower. Wow, it seems like 80% of the time, all enemies do is walk in a straight line towards me yelling, "You picked a bad time to get lost, friend." Well, there's a mod out there that speeds up the pace of combat and makes enemy NPCs behave in a much more dynamic way while they yell, "You picked a bad time to get lost, friend." That mod is called Ultimate Combat. And as of making this video, and having tried probably like a dozen combat overhauls at this point, it is definitely my favorite major overhaul for Skyrim's combat system. Now, some enemies can dash and even dodge. Ultimately, the game plays more like it was probably intended to be played. An action-based role-playing game. Overall, NPCs just have more options and fight more aggressively. Bosses are a little bit stronger, making those encounters more exciting. Oh, and it adds a super neat stagger system and timed blocking. Combat is just so much more fast-paced and interesting with this mod. And unlike a lot of older combat overhauls, one of the great things about this mod is that it's still being updated to this day. I highly recommend it. Next, we have Ordinator, an extremely popular perk overhaul mod, and it's popular for good reason. It completely overhauls the perk system with over 400 new perks. This leads to more intricate playstyles and a lot more options for all kinds of combat builds. There are so many abilities and spells available that if you're playing through the game again, it really changes how the game feels. Not only that, but this mod also gives you incentives for actual skilled play in combat. For instance, if you play as an archer, it rewards you for your accuracy by buffing your damage in combat. Or if you play as a warrior, there are perks that reward specific levels of aggression, dashing forward and power attacking, blocking and countering, and so on. With this mod, trying new types of characters is so much fun. And if you were originally turned off from one particular playstyle, this mod may give you the opportunity to try something new. I mean, seriously, there's even an opportunity to become a combat bard if you spend enough time leveling. A combat bard, dude! By beefing up a ton of additional playstyles, this mod definitely makes combat more dynamic and rewarding. Totally recommend this regardless of what type of combat mods you tend to like, because it's just a great mod that makes the game so much better. Alright, for this next one, make sure you're sitting down because I'm about to blow your mind. Ever play a game where, I don't know, you can jump and attack at the same time? Character Behaviors Enhanced lets you do just that. Here's the rundown of what this mod offers. Mid-air attacking, underwater combat, its own dodge feature, and a few other beautiful, beautiful changes. Sometimes this mod's compatibility can be a little tricky, especially with TK dodge, but it's worth trying at least once. So what are you waiting for, gamer girls? Free yourself from Todd's shackles. But actually, all of these changes are great and should have been there at launch and should really be in the next Elder Scrolls. Oh, look at him, staring right up at me. What a guy, what a dude. What the fuck? That's not supposed to, what? You ever feel like NPCs are just a little bit too easy to cheese? Or that they all seem to wait their individual turns to attack you for some reason? You just feel like the game's just a little bit too easy. Probably a baby could play it, like, you know, probably. Like a pretty smart baby, but if you happen to not be a smart baby, the next mod I recommend is specifically made to be a complement to bigger mods like Ultimate Combat, as I previously mentioned, and it's called Combat Evolved. This is a mod that makes fighting almost all enemies more challenging, specifically because it makes them more aggressive and intelligent. Enemies are much more likely to do things like surround you and actually block. This incentivizes you to play much more strategically, to keep moving, and not fall into the all too common complacency that many of us Skyrim players know, which is to hold W and hit the left mouse button, or whatever that would be on a controller. I don't know because I have standards. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, please, I'm sorry. In the Elder Scrolls, archery tends to be pretty bare bones, but if you're tired of the same old routine as an archer, consider installing Archery Gameplay Overhaul. It is a fairly recent mod that changes a bunch of big things about archery in Skyrim. The first thing you might have noticed is that it has improved many of the animations when wielding a bow. It also adds a little camera shake effect whenever your character holds back an arrow for a really long time, again rewarding you for skilled play. Outside of those visual things, it makes some substantial changes to combat. For instance, it implements a bleed DPS feature when your arrows hit enemies, and it increases damage incrementally as you level your archery skill. And another big change is that it lets you easily enchant your arrows with 4 types of elemental rings. If, for instance, you're not really inclined to level your mage skills, which I actually appreciate just for the sake of it making archers more versatile. Oh, and it also gives you the ability to customize your crosshair and even the position of the camera. 2 thumbs up for customization. Say, wouldn't it be nice if your followers were, you know, a little bit more, you know, useful instead of just being in your way, like always, just being in your f***ing way? If you want to be able to choose the detailed combat styles of your followers and also make them significantly less stupid, I highly recommend Amazing Follower Tweaks. You can customize their particular behaviors by making them focus on things like healing you, only using ranged attacks, or just running in there like a nutty boy. Personally, healing is definitely my favorite part of this mod because I tend to find chugging potions or spamming spells in vanilla rather boring. This mod even lets you make it so your followers don't react negatively to friendly fire. It also lets them avoid triggering traps in dungeons, and it lets them be completely quiet when you're sneaking so they don't alert anyone, and so on. Not only that, but this mod also allows you to have multiple companions at a time, so you get to specialize your posse to behave however you like in combat. And those features are actually just scratching the surface of what this mod improves. So what the heck, man? Give it a try! The sky is the limit. This is ridiculous. They're still flying out into the... Are they falling? Some of them are falling?
What's it called?
Oh my god. If the abilities you get from Ordinator aren't enough to spice up your gameplay as a mage, consider this next mod because it's pretty wild. It's called Magic Duel. It's basically like a Wild West minigame except for wizards. After achieving certain parameters in combat, there's a chance of actually engaging in a minigame with a fellow mage to decide whose magicka is the juiciest. And you can even duel dragons. Overall, it might not necessarily be the kind of thing you'd find in another game with a more nuanced combat system, but it is just straight up a lot of fun. Oh shit. Okay.
Here we go again.
Oh no, a new speech! I'm in the middle of something! Don't you dare! Clapping at me! When I roll a mage, I typically don't end up using wards to block, you know, because I'm not a coward! But actually, it's mainly because their usefulness is kind of limited, and since I'm always usually leveling up my destruction tree, I just don't really care. But this next mod caught my attention. It might actually get me to change that in a significant way. Ward functionalities extended makes wards way better. Not only does it let you customize the attributes of your ward, like for instance how much it costs, how much it absorbs, and so on, but it lets you block melee weapons and arrows. It lets you block them. You can block curved swords. This feature specifically adds so much versatility that it may actually spur on like a 50-hour playthrough as a mage. That said, I definitely recommend giving this mod a try, especially if you play a mage. Now, speaking of playstyles, I don't know about you, but I've almost never committed to a two-handed melee build in Skyrim. And the reason why is because they're just so ridiculously slow. Sure, the slow animation makes them feel weighty. Maybe it balances out the difference in damage, but it's far from realistic. But more importantly, it's just annoying. And that is why I recommend faster swinging greatswords. By turning up the speed from about 0.7 to 1, it really makes a huge difference. Now two-handed playthroughs are way more fun. And combined with some perks related to Ordinator, I've probably gotten at least 50 hours on a two-handed playthrough after installing this mod. In my opinion, it's just totally essential. Seriously though, I recommend all of these mods. I think they all do something significant enough to actually make combat more enjoyable, regardless of your playstyle. And I certainly hope that if you do like these mods, you remember to endorse them on the mod page. And hey, if you ever had a friend who decided to quit playing Skyrim because they didn't like the overly simplistic combat system, consider showing them this video. So in like a year, when the multiplayer Skyrim mod drops, you might actually be able to get them to play it with you. I'm also going to use the end part of this video to shout out a couple things you might like that I've done. First of all, I have a ton of Skyrim mod compilations. A playlist will be linked in the description. Also, if you like these clips of me dying a bunch, consider catching one of my live streams that I do about 4 times a week on the channel. And I'll also link a playlist of all of the funny moments I've had in Skyrim if you want to catch those as well. And with that, I have one last thing to say. Not a day goes by where I'm not super thankful for content creation being a big part of my life. So the biggest thank you in the universe to all my patrons over on Patreon for supporting videos like these. My current patrons are Jack Burton 2, Shunsboy, Wonder WV, Recon is Dead Inside, Scott, Shadow Warrior, David, Great Osiris, Voroman, David, Oswald, Daniel, Jordan, Damien, Joshua, Stefan, and Jesse. Thank you all so much. You guys are all my heroes. Please have a lovely day, and I'll see you in the next one.